I grew up in a super conservative family, and until recently was way too hardcore. When that last election went down, I mean, I went ham for Trump. I really did. So much so that 8 days after the inauguration of Biden, I was driving myself to the loony bin. Couldn't handle it. I thought it was funny when Trump won and all these snowflakes were out here crying and screaming, and then I watched Trump get grabbed up right by his pussy and smacked right the fuck down. And then I was a snowflake crybaby, and that was humbling. That was something. My whole life, I have been a patriot and a conservative and a Christian. And pretty much everybody I know is that way. And we like to talk about these liberal crybabies, right? About how if conservatives don't like something, they turn it off. But if liberals don't like something, they kick and scream and cry about it and demand it get banned and shit, you know? It's true. To a point. Until you have a spiritual awakening and your whole view of the world changes because you realize how fake it is. And as soon as you start talking about Christ-conscious topics and the fact that we're all being lied to about who and what God is, what happened with Jesus, what happened on that cross, and the fact that nobody was killed for our sins, then it's really funny how all these patriots that I've always been cool with, and all of these conservatives who say that these liberals are a bunch of crybabies, they become a bunch of crybabies. In my messenger, constantly, because I'm sharing things from morgue. I'm sharing things from content creators who are talking about way more important stuff from a spiritually enlightened take. Now, I don't agree with everything that Morgue says, but I agree with a lot of it, and I like that guy. He's cool. That's a cool character. And if you'd ever look up Morgue Official, and if you'd ever just look at this guy and get instantly turned off because of the way he presents himself, he identifies as non-binary. Who gives a shit? Everybody who's spiritually awake is literally looking around at all this fighting over gender shit, and it's just like, when you realize that you're an eternal soul trapped in a body here, yeah, you've lived previous lifetimes. Yeah, it was of the opposite gender. If you don't balance your masculine and feminine energy out, maybe you're dealing with some non-binary stances, or maybe these transgenders are getting just really swept up in it, and who gives a shit what people look like? Morgue actually is vanilla. His content is vanilla compared to some of these other content creators out here. Good place to start looking if you'd like. But I was gonna talk about my life, sift through it, try to learn how to edit videos. I am so upset though, because it's like, I have all these good memories with people, and they'll just slide into my messenger. Come back to Christ. Jesus did die on the cross for your sins. you're demonically possessed, blah, 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 blah. Well, now I'm angry. And I drove up to this lake near my house just to get the hell away. Because I literally feel my whole town's hatred. They can't even stand me. Cannot, and it is such a shame. Literally such a shame. But when I was young, I never slept good. Not ever. I remember when I was little just staring at walls because I was so scared all of the time at night. I was terrified that there was monsters under my bed or something, like a lot of kids, you know? But I would wake up with scratches and bruises sometimes, and I never really talked about it because I just never really knew. And this one time, I think my dad said I was around 5. He came home and I was just laying in my bed crying, and I guess he kept asking me what was wrong, and I wouldn't talk, and I was just crying. So he started like touching around my body, and as soon as he touched on I have the manliest hands this world's ever seen. Have fun with those in my videos, enjoy. But as soon as he touched my collarbone, I started screaming, and he took me to the hospital, and I had a broken collarbone, and I was on a top bunk, and yeah, you know, must have just fell out of bed. Okay. I never really remembered that. And whenever I was 10, I went to church camp, and I had that super spiritual moment where I was out under the stars and felt God really warm up my heart. You know, really, really felt the love of God. And that was when I started getting really into the stars, and I ended up getting a telescope for Christmas because I just loved looking at the stars, and always felt like this whole world was just so weird. And it was pretty much right after I had this good spiritual moment with God that when I would go to sleep at night, it was like in limbo, like right when you're about to, like when you're almost all the way asleep, I started to see a scary face. And it would scare me awake. And I only ever told my one ex about this, the one I testified against. And he told me that his kid's mom, who I testified for, that she saw something like this when she was young. And I had heard a couple of other people talking about weird stuff too, about seeing a scary face. This face looked like a brand, and it was at an angle, like if I was laying there, it was looking at me like at a weird angle. Its eyes were up here and its mouth went like down over that way. Looked kind of like Darth Maul and mixed with something. It scared me. And I never got into the Star Wars movies or anything. I mean, I've seen a couple of them like once, but that Darth Maul character always creeped me out. But when I was teenager. I think I was 14 when I got diagnosed with anxiety. But my whole life, I've had OCD, and it has been overlooked. Before I was 14, my parents had me at behavioral therapy, like counseling. They had me looked at because I was so defiant. Super strong-willed. Little tomboy, always out playing in the mud. My parents would tell me to come home when the streetlights came on, and I would sit behind my house and watch the streetlights come on and just sit there doing nothing. Just wait. Just to be a dick. And everybody I've ever been to was just like, there's nothing wrong with her. There's nothing diagnosably wrong with her. She's just strong-willed and kind of an asshole. But no, I have not been able to touch so much shit. When I was little, I couldn't wear jeans, couldn't touch this, couldn't touch that. Super sensitive to sounds, light, smells, everything. All 5 senses. Super, super sensitive. And nobody ever caught it. And when I got diagnosed with anxiety, started having real bad dreams again. Started waking up with scratches. And when I was 17, I was in creative writing class, and we had to write a poetry notebook. And I remember when I wrote this poetry notebook that I really put a lot of thought and effort into it, but I didn't really remember what I wrote. And my teacher loved it so much, she was like, hey, can I keep this so that I can use this as the example to show the other kids? And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I don't care about school. I don't care about that notebook. I don't care about it. Like, go ahead, you can have it. And continued on my life. Enrolled in college to be a nurse right after graduating. And dropped out because I got pregnant twice in a row. My children are 11 and a half months apart. And yeah, been serving and bartending my whole life. I started waiting tables when I was like 15. And there are so many people in the food service industry who are either mentally ill or super spiritually gifted, and or super spiritually gifted. And I've just kind of always been that person who, I talk about anything. I don't care. I will talk about anything. I will rack people's brains. And I just started noticing that men and women, we're all just kind of the freaking same. Like, everybody's just kind of the same in a lot of different ways. And I went to prison, got arrested in 2011, went to trial 2012, talked about that, went to prison, and that was literally that was an experience. That really was. Right before I went to prison, though, it was like right before, I went to prison in October 2012, but in June of 2012, I had this very far away thought. It wasn't a voice, but it was a really far away thought that I almost didn't even catch. It like came from the right hand, like right back of my brain. And it was a thought of, beware the Ides of June. And I'm sitting there, it was like the beginning of June. I'm sitting there, I'm like, that is the weirdest thought. I remember some shit about a book or something back in school that said, beware the Ides of March. Where did that thought come from? It was really, really weird. And here, it was like beginning of August, I found out I was pregnant for the 3rd time. On my way to trial, on my way to prison, and I panicked. I already had 2 kids on the welfare system, and I made a decision and went to a clinic. And this is why I made a video for anybody who's anti-abortion out there. And to any woman who's out there that's had one, who regrets it, and you think that somebody's waiting to judge you for your sins, and you're keeping it a secret, like I did forever, what do you forgive? If you forgive you, that's what you need to do. Such a mess. That shit is such a mess. People think women are out here just willy-nilly doing this shit, and some of them are. It's real bad for their energy fields, too. Not a good thing. It's not a good thing to do. But if everybody in this world was spiritually awake, this shit would not be happening. This shit would not be happening. I asked the doctors, I had asked so many times to have my tubes tied or removed, because myself and everybody in my family has been plagued with fertility. And they wouldn't do it. You're not old enough. You don't have enough kids. You're not bogging down the welfare system enough. We don't care. And what that does to a woman's mental health, who gives a shit, who actually has kids and does not want to be in this position, such a shame. At the end of the day, it's nobody else's choice but a woman's. And it makes me sick, all these kids in foster care. Nobody doing shit for them. All these pro-life people, why aren't you helping the kids in foster care? Shit like that. But so yeah, did that, went to prison. And when I was about 28, 27, 28, I really started to see people in colors. I really started to see and group people by colors. And that was super, super weird. And I had run into a couple other people who were doing that too. I don't know what the hell is going on here. What in the hell? There's a lot of people who are doing weird shit, but I can't really figure it out. Like, I can't figure out what the hell is going on in this world. And once COVID happened, it was such a prompt. Such a prompt for me and everything that I've been through since. But in the 6 months after COVID lockdowns started, I'm sitting there going, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to stay in the food and restaurant businesses when they are just clearly getting attacked. And I started my own painting business, and I was doing good enough. It was like as soon as I started doing well and it looked like I was gonna get myself off the system, my life fell apart. I started falling away in my mind. I had COVID for probably the second time. It was hitting me in the head. And I have a video of when I went to the hospital. I went to the emergency room in January of 2021. Yep. And I'm like, I had a stroke or something really, really bad happened to my brain. It feels like I got hit by lightning right behind my temple, but then straight down through here. And I wasn't old enough. That didn't make any sense. So went home, spent the next 11 days pretty much hiding in my garage, trying to figure out what the hell I was going through, because I started seeing movie scenes. Literally, these movie scenes started to play out in my head, but I didn't know that my whole major issue was a whole movie. Started seeing Stranger Things scenes, started seeing scenes, you know, but my whole thing was, it felt like a door had cracked in my mind, and I felt like I had one foot in this reality, and then the rest of me was just getting bombed by other realities. Then I'm like trying to look for a little girl, just keeping my eye out. I didn't go freaking out and looking for a little girl or anything, but in my head I'm going, I need to find or help some little girl. I don't know if it's the little girl inside of myself, this scared little kid. I don't know if it's an actual girl out there. I don't know if I'm gonna see some little girl somewhere and then maybe see a sign or something. I had no clue, but I'm going, I feel like if I can find or help this little girl, maybe I can help myself and figure out what the hell is going on with me. And when I went to the hospital, I was checked in. They literally, I didn't tell them any of this. I went to the hospital and was just like, listen, I came here before. You kind of didn't take me seriously. Like, please give me an MRI. There's something going on with my brain. I definitely feel like I had COVID in November and into December, and it's messing with my brain. At the same exact time that I was going through this, I saw on the news a woman in another state. She was like a 43-year-old nurse or something. Had 3 kids. Never in her life did she ever think about killing her kids. But she got hit with COVID. It was COVID psychosis. she started hearing voices telling her to kill her kids. She took herself to the mental hospital for it, and they found out she had COVID. Then I see another report about this lady who got hit in the head with COVID psychosis, and she started seeing monkeys and wild animals in her living room, and it scared this shit out of her, as it would, and she drove herself to the mental hospital. She had COVID psychosis. So I go, and I'm like, please test me for COVID, please. There are women, multiple women out there getting clobbered with COVID right now. I feel like I am literally getting spiritually attacked. I've probably been spiritually attacked my whole freaking life, and now I'm scared. I am really, really scared. And they were like, yeah, we'll give you an MRI if you check yourself in on a 202. And I'm like, fuck it, I'll do that. And I went there and I saw a bunch of people terrified of the show Supernatural, and having these movie scenes play out in their heads. And I'm just watching them going, I definitely saw a couple movie scenes too, but I'm not experiencing this movie scene thing to the extent that you guys are, because I had never seen Stir of Echoes. And it was only after I got out of the hospital that my best friend was like, hey, Kel, have you seen the Stir of Echoes movie? Because that's literally the plot. This guy had a door crack in his mind, and he goes looking for this girl, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, who is writing these movies? Who is making these shows? What the hell is going on? It's like whoever's writing all of this shit is setting everybody up for failure. And I think it was in June of that year when Hamas attacked Israel. I remember walking in to my friend's living room, and it was on the news, and there's a couple people sitting there, and I'm going, what's going on? And they're like, oh, Israel's getting bombed. Look at how cool the Iron Dome is. Wow, look at it. It's like look how cool the Iron Dome is. And I'm sitting there, and had only been out of the mental hospital for a couple of months, and I'm freaking out. I'm flipping. I'm going, we're just gonna sit here? United States is just gonna sit here and watch this shit, and they're not gonna do anything? I mean, literally drove me nuts. Learning about the Holocaust in school really drove me nuts. That shit really, I mean, it bothers everybody. But Nick Fuentes, I guess, but real weird. I've had this real weird attachment, I guess, to Israel, and I don't know. So I'm all bound up on antipsychotics at this point, because all you got to do is say that you feel like God's under attack, and you're really scared for your country, and you're really scared for everybody in this world who is getting attacked right now. That's all you got to say to get put on heavy antipsychotics. And I went to the mental doctor. I was going to Chestnut Ridge before, so I'm going to again now. And they booted me out. They literally booted me out in November of last year. And then I had to crash land off of clomipramine, which is the OCD gold standard medication. And seems like the big problem with most people in the world is they're getting called bipolar and schizophrenic when actually they have OCD and are spiritual and don't know it. And Big Pharma's slaughtering everybody because clomipramine, gold standard OCD medicine, it's dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. They're putting everybody on antipsychotics. But if you've ever seen any of the rapper NF's videos, and that's OCD. Literally. Everybody has anxiety and depression. OCD is an anxiety disorder that causes depression and causes all kinds of stuff. And if you look at the religious and scrupulosity type OCD, that's where they're hiding everything. If you would put it all side by side and actually look, it's all the freaking same. And I started to feel like an animal in a cage after I saw Hamas attack Israel. I did. I literally started going, okay. I started looking at spiritual stuff. As soon as I started losing my mind, I'm putting doctors up side by side with these spiritual healers. And I'm going, what's the difference? These people over here are saying this shit's spiritual. These people are saying it's totally insane. And they're not even taking into consideration spirituality. So who the hell is right? What the hell is going on here? And I started remembering when I was little again, started going back to my childhood, and most of my nightmares were fires. Fires, people screaming, not good shit. And a little bit before my breakdown, I was working at this diner and this boy came in. He was a senior. He was in a creative writing class, and he goes, I saw your name on a poetry notebook. And I went, get that notebook back for me. He's like, what? I'm like, I don't know why, but I want that book back. I want that back right now. Ask the teacher for my poetry notebook back. I don't know why I want it, but I want it. And he asked her, and he comes to work, and he goes, she said no. She said you gave it to her, and that book is hers, and she's not giving it back. So I wrote her a whole little letter, and I'm like, listen, lied. I'm like, I got kids, and my kids really want to see my writing, and they really want to see that book. Please give it back to me. I really, really want it. And I guess, she threw a hissy fit. She threw a hissy fit when she gave me this book back. But she gave it back to him. He gave it to me. And it was like right after this bombing stuff, I started having thoughts in my head of, look in your notebook. Because I wanted this stupid book back so bad. And then I didn't even look at it. So I go and I open my poetry notebook, and I called it Everything Louder Than Everything Else because it's a Meatloaf song. And I wrote it and turned it in December 19th of 2007. It's about things that are quiet and things that are loud, because I've always been super sound sensitive. And I open it up, and the first poem is, as winter approaches, the days become bone-chillingly cold. Snow begins to fall delicately among the lands. Not a car drives on the streets as they become slippery. Not a person walks down the sidewalks. It is as if civilization has abandoned me here in this little town. Cheesy. What makes snow even more beautiful is its weightless demeanor. It isn't heavy and fat like rain is, each drop sounding like a rock against my window. It's soft, quiet, and flawless. I look upon the millions of snowflakes as I try to fathom how it is possible that no two flakes are identical. I think of this as I lay down in my cozy bed, sheltered from the bitter cold. I sleep and dream of these snowflakes, these fallen teardrops of God's angels. So then I flip the page, and there's a poem, because all of these poems had to be different. They were like specific. This is like the different types of poems that had to be in there. Weird shit. Tree lit. I don't even know. Flip a page and it's a poem and it says, "That's a real nice pond. It shimmers in the desert heat, but real it is not." When I read that, I'm going, I have literally always seen mirages. Always. But it wasn't always on streets with heat. It's like energy or something. Start seeing weird ripples of energy. And then that kind of weirded me out. Then I wrote a poem and it says, "She lives so happily in her beautiful home with her beautiful life. 2 gorgeous children run the halls, as she calls them, godsends. A gorgeous husband who loves her dearly fixes her breakfast. How does she tell them? How can you tell them? How can you tell the ones you love and who love you so much back that you probably won't be alive to see next Christmas? Why? Cancer. How? No one knows. The silent killer will steal her away from her family like a thief steals jewelry, so swiftly, so quietly, so permanently. She sits and eats the breakfast that her husband made for her while she watches him kiss the foreheads of her guardian angels." And then I'm going, I've always felt so connected to God and angels, and yeah, okay, I guess I have religious scrupulosity type OCD. Okay, if all of this is bullshit, yeah, I'm a nut job. Then I wrote a poem about a clock. Around this room I continue to walk as the hours pass by ever so slowly. Time seems to be at a standstill. As I pace, I think of past times, of memories I want back but will never receive. Around this room I continue to walk. I look towards the grandfather for assurance that this day will end. Time seems to be at a standstill. I turn towards the window, but it is blackened with a blanket around this room. I continue to walk. I twiddle my thumbs quickly as I sulk into a wooden chair. Time seems to be at a standstill. I don't know why this is happening. A minute feels like a millennium. Around this room I continue to walk. Time seems to be at a standstill. Then I started getting really upset because I'm going, time has never moved right for me. Ever. This is so strange. I wrote this shit and I don't even remember writing this shit. But this is literally stuff from my childhood. Back to when I couldn't sleep at night. I mean, I feel like I have freaking lived so many extra days or years because I just have never had a good relationship with time or sleep. Then I have this one poem that says, "Black, white, brown, yellow, African, Caucasian, Mexican, Chinese, All four human, all four full of hatred. Hatred against what? Skin pigmentation, religious differences, racism. How can one take a life not theirs to take because they hate? Hatred, the burning despise of another, the reason thousands past have died. Racism, the burning hatred of another based on race alone. Racism, hate. Beelzebub's two horsemen. As soon as I read that, it flashbacked me to when I was young, and I would see this scary ass face when I would try to go to sleep. And when I wrote that, I just think that I thought that Beelzebub was like another name for the devil or Satan or something. And that shit scared me. Then I'm going, nah, I've been literally spiritually attacked. I'm getting spiritually attacked. I have been my whole life. I have had the weirdest psychic shit going on with me this whole damn time. Then I started to realize it, and it scared me. Then I found this one. It was, to paint a portrait requires talent, skill, patience. It takes such silence, such concentration, such love. Beauty befalls such portraits. And I'm going, haha, that's so weird. I started a whole painting business. I ain't painting portraits, but painting some pretty expensive cabinets and shit. That is so weird. Then I came across this poem. And when I came across this poem, it literally made me sick. It goes, Dear Diary, hi, I'm Hillary. I have so much on my mind, and I'm really in a bind. I have no one I can talk to. I'm so glad now that I have you. You see, my daddy shot my mommy. She hit the table, spilled some coffee. I tried but couldn't make a sound when mommy's head hit off the ground. And I still haven't said a word. My inner screams remain unheard. When I read that, it literally felt like I got shot in the head. I was so sick. I'm going, I know I've been alive. I literally feel like I probably saw something like this. Or if there's other lifetimes going on right now, like I saw this in a dream or I lived this. And then I'm going, what the hell did my teacher even want this freaking notebook for? This is fucked up. What kind of 17-year-olds writing shit like this? Literally, so many freaking poems in this book. War. Loud, violent, demanding, trying, brutal. Everyone involved will suffer. Crusade. So freaking weird. I'm literally going, this sucks. This is spiritual. People had to be reincarnated. Reincarnation has to be real. I know that the Bible says it's not, but then clearly a lot of other people are experiencing weird stuff. Why are people cross-dressing and stuff? Maybe they've been alive before and they're remembering too much. I mean, literally. Then there was this one. My last poem. Babies. The lights of our lives, the pride and joy of parents worldwide, the creation of two lovers, bundles of joy, not, they stink, they scream, they poop all the time. You can't give one a kiss on the face without running into some kind of old, crusty, stuck-on food. Some never sleep, some never rest, never stop. Run, 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 play, 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 poop, 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 barf, barf, barf. I can't wait to be a mother. Let me tell you, I can't wait to be knees deep in vomit, waist high in poop, neck high in dirty clothes, and 6 feet under when it comes to money. Oh yes, motherhood, here I come. Literally, within 2 years of writing this book, I had my first kid, and then quickly my second kid. And I'm sitting here going, I always saw 2 kids. I always saw me having 2 boys, and that was it. If I ever would have had another child, I probably would have offed myself. It would have put my life at risk, because my kid's dad has nothing to do with them. He's out there being a deadbeat. And I just could have never. So then when I ran into this book, I'm going, there is something freaking going on with me. And there's something going on with a lot of other people I know too. Because I can tell that there's something different about these people. I have everybody grouped up by these colors, and I just don't know why. And then it was like, you know, after November of last year, when I had that dream, these reoccurring dreams of this plane crash that actually happened in Houston, I turned off the TV, turned off everything in January. And the only time I really turned the TV back on was to watch the new season of The Boys when it came out, because I love that show on Amazon Prime. Even though it really tried to make the conservatives look like the assholes here. And hit me weird. Hit me in a distasteful way. I still definitely liked it. And I'm watching that new season. And if you've never seen it, it's Amazon's pretty much only good show. But this one character, Black Noir, he has a schizophrenic scene where he has all these little animals, little guides come out to, you know, help him right before he dies. I don't even know if he died. Yeah, I think he died. I don't give a shit about that show anymore. As soon as I saw that, I literally thought of NF's video, The Search. And I'm looking at all the little pieces of NF. And I'm thinking about all this shit in my head about how I've been being guided. Literally. I've always felt my grandma. Always felt the presence of my grandmother. And always had dreams of whales, Pegasuses, like, always felt like a bear. But I seen that and I'm going, they are making fun of ancestors and spirit guides. They are actually gaslighting people, and they are trying to make everybody believe that this shit is schizophrenia. I'm pissed. That was literally like the last show that I've ever watched, and I'm like so done with TV because I see what it does to people. I wonder how many people are stuck in a spiritual awakening right now who are being guided by spirit guides and ancestors and saw that shit, and now they're like, great, I am schizophrenic. That is bullshit. That was such bullshit. But I started doing shadow work. I didn't know what shadow work was at all, but I was doing it all of last year. I was going so deep in my mind, and the deeper that I went, these movie scenes would play in my head backwards. It was like I was looking at them backwards, and I was confused. And as soon as I started realizing this, I started looking at them in a mirror. I started flipping that shit because I knew I was being attacked. I knew that I was being spiritually attacked in my mind. And that anytime I would see some kind of a movie scene, I would think automatically the opposite. I would literally, you wanna know how I did a lot of my shadow work? I would little Nicky that shit and release the good. Literally. That's what I started doing in my mind. Was when I would get attacked and when these bad things kept coming into my brain, I would just sit there and be totally calm and just release the good. And I'm not joking. These bad forces did not fucking like that at all. At all. I calmly started trying to figure out why everything was clustered, literally clustered on the right hand side of my brain, and why it looked like I was looking at shit backwards. And then I started literally, as I unknowingly started to balance my energy, I started being able to pull everything that was stuck in the back of my head and on the right hand side. I started to be able to pull it outward and started to be able to view more from the side. And that literally is what anybody needs to do. If anybody ever experiences anything like that, you have to, whatever your brain is showing you, start looking at it in a mirror. You got to use mirrors. Literally, it's like looking the basilisk in the eye. Because your brain is hardwired to make you go crazy. And in August 12th, I was guided to this Lion of Judah Facebook page. Never watched it before. But as soon as I heard this voice, it kind of sounded like this good guiding voice of God that I had heard when I was sitting in prison. I heard, this is where you need to be. And I'm like, yeah, I need to learn lessons. Like, yeah, I guess I need to be here. And I did. I learned a lot of lessons. But this voice in these videos kind of reminded me of that voice. And I think I heard him say heaven's choirs. And when this happened, I just shut my eyes. It was probably at like 4 p.m. on August 12th. I shut my eyes, and it was like this big buildup. Like my whole life was just a house of cards in my mind. And it was like the house of cards fell, but the top one was lifted. Like somebody just grabbed and snatched the top card and up. I felt like I was lifted up into another, it looked like a heavenly realm. And in my mind, I'm sitting outside of my house, but in my mind, it was so bright. This place that I was in was so bright. It was like really bright white, but it was very colorful with pinks, yellows, baby blues, and it felt like I was a boy. It felt like I was either a little boy and I was about thigh high to some big man, or If I was an adult male, I was standing next to a giant. There's giants and other densities better than this. Apparently, some say in the next density that we're all trying to get to, that's what we become. But it was only there in my mind for like 5 to 7 seconds. It was really strange. And when I came back to reality, I opened my eyes, and it was just like I looked from left to right up in the sky, and it was almost like I just saw that everything I had ever done, the good, the bad, and the ugly, everything I had ever done, if I could change anything that I ever wanted to change in the past, it would have never led me to this moment. Like, I was finally able to have some peace within myself. All these people with OCD out here striving for perfection. If you would ever have a spiritual awakening, I believe you'd find a little slice of perfection. I do. I realized that I broke perfectly. And then I closed my eyes again. And when I closed my eyes, I felt like, again, I was just lifted. But I was in a different area, and it felt like I was standing on top of a mountain. And when I was standing on top of this mountain in my head, in real life, I got hit with a beam of energy right in my heart. And I opened my eyes, and I looked, and it felt like it scanned all the way down my body, and then it scanned all the way back up my body, and it shot through the center of my forehead and out. And when that happened, I closed my eyes again, and I'm back in this mountain area. Except everything that I was seeing, this huge mountain area, it was all emerald green. It was like somebody had put 3D glasses on me or something, and my vision was all emerald green. And when this happened, it looked like all the way out to the right in the sky, it looked like literally like a freaking Eye of Sauron. It looked like this huge, like this reptilian eye was watching this happen to me and did not like it. And it was all emerald green. And I looked over at this eye, and it was like, as soon as I saw this eye, and it was watching me, it looked like it just went, and it looked like it got turned off, like a TV. Like, it looked like it just got sucked away. And like that door was closed or something. Like, it felt like something was snooping. Like something big saw what just happened to me and didn't like it. So I opened my eyes, and I'm going, that was really weird. That was weird shit. That was something. But I don't know what that was, but my heart was literally so full, and I felt energy literally just kind of surging in me, kind of surging through me. And I know this is when I popped my throat chakra, or what popped my throat chakra open, because I felt this funnel of energy going backwards. straight through. Didn't know that until not that long ago. So I'm continuing on with my life, and for 6 days after this, I literally felt like I was floating. I felt so coming out of a coma. But then I'm going, what the hell happened to me? Like, do I even have a soul? Like, did I just get freaking raptured or something? Like, what the hell just happened to me? I mean, I had no clue. I had gone down some spirituality channels, but it was never rabbit holes. It was just a couple things here and a couple of things there. And just enough to understand that the shit that they're trying to tell everybody is mental disorders is fightable by the spiritual community, because that shit's spiritual. And you feel like you're leveling up, that's not bipolar shit. That's spiritual level ups. So right when I realized that I felt like I was floating, I'm at work. Up on the left-hand side, it was kind of like the last time anything kind of like popped up on a side, and I mean now and ever since, information just kind of flows, really flows. I saw Pennywise pop up in my head, going, you'll float too, you'll float too. And then I thought of this NF song where he's talking about sticking his knife inside of Pennywise, and I'm going, he went through a lot of shit. That dude's on a spiritual path. That guy. I wonder if anybody else has ever had Pennywise pop up in their head and try to scare them. These movies are scare tactics and weapons. So I'm sitting there, and it was like 3 minutes later. 3 minutes later, in my mind, I'm gonna have to start driving. Pick my kids up from school. I see it's been an hour. Holy shit. But I was sitting there, and it was kind of like the magic sorting hat from Harry Potter. In my mind, it was like a piece of parchment popped up, and I, like, in my mind, reached out and literally grabbed it, and I looked at it and I read it, and it said Elijah, and I'm going, what the hell? And then I'm going, I think that used to be my name. I think maybe in a past life or something. That sounds really familiar. I think that used to be my name. And I sitting there, and I thought about it for like a couple of days, and I wasn't looking into it. Really wasn't looking heavily into it at all. And it started to feel pressing. I started to feel pushed, kind of like a, you need to look at this. So I didn't even know where to look. And I didn't know. I didn't know where to look. So I just winged it. And I'm on YouTube. And I didn't know what else to do. So I just typed in, who was Elijah? Freaking boom. Then I see he was alive before. We called him a prophet. And I saw the story of Baal. And saw that he had depression issues. I saw that I saw a few stories, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, that's weird. I mean, if I take my life and I put it side by side with what people said of him, besides the ball stuff, you know, prophets are known to be funny, known to come from shady, you know, rough paths. I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, this is literally not even a big deal. Literally, if I were alive before, and that's who I was, and when I put my life up, the details of it up against his, it looks like an odd little fit that we have a lot of similarities. And I'm like, all right, it's fine. This isn't a big deal. And then I saw that it was some promise that his power would return. And then I'm like, this is kind of making me a little bit sick. This is kind of scaring me. And it was right around the beginning of September. I felt really cagey. I felt really scared. I felt nervous, like something was coming at me, like some energy was coming at me. And I ended up going to Gabe's. I was like, I'm just getting the hell out of my house. I'm getting the hell away from here. And I'm just going to go to Gabe's. And I'm in Gabe's. And I just stop dead in my tracks when I'm in there. Because I'm like, something's here. And right when I stopped, it was like a beam came down. It was like an energy field. And it felt like a warm energy of plasma, like, bumped me in the head. And I'm like, okay. And it guided right down into my brain. My phone's gonna die. Guided right down into my brain. Right over top of that spot where it felt like I got hit by lightning. And it had always hurt. It had always been really uncomfortable. But this ball of energy went right down over top of it. And it felt better. Literally, it felt like whatever the hell these doctors ignored might have just gotten better. But then, I'm like, I'm done. I don't need anything else, Gabe's. I'm done. And I got home. And it felt like I had straight up become possessed. I've seen people talk about being possessed by spirits. And like this indigo angel talked about for 2 weeks when she was going through spiritual stuff. Mother Mary, the spirit, came down into her, and for 2 weeks she couldn't tell the difference between herself. I mean, she thought that she was Mother Mary because Mary was literally in her and just kind of cruising around in a body. That's not what happened to me. It felt like for literally 7 weeks I had a total co-pilot. Now, my whole life, I have felt like I had a co-pilot. And I believe that this is where the Indigo 3 shit comes in. I have felt like there has been something else going on with me. Something else inside of me. not harmful, but don't fuck with it. Don't piss me off, because there is something about me and my temper. I mean, just I don't even go out. Like, I don't even want pissed off. But it literally, I mean, I was walking around. I put my boots on, my painting boots, and I would like walk around, and it was just like I was letting somebody else experience life through my eyes. And it was really weird. And when Mercury started going retrograde on September 9th, that cosmic energy literally it started to feel like I had a vice grip. Like I was grabbed up by like 4 things, right? And I had a vice grip on my mind, and I was conducting and anchoring so much power and energy. And I'm sitting here going, buddy, like, what the hell is this? Like, what is going on? And then I saw way too much. I saw that I picked my parents, and my whole life I've just kind of been a Trojan horse. Something about his energy coupled with a female. There's something spiritually more powerful about women. I don't know if it's our wombs and the ability to create life, but it looked like, I don't know, so much shit happened to me. And my phone's about to die. I'm about to pick up my kids. Maybe make another video sometime elaborating, but I pretty much had my life ruined when I came across. I was led to this End Times Dreams and Visions YouTube channel where it was like broad daylight, and I had seen 2 men. It was dark though. I think it was really early in the morning, but it was like broad daylight to me. But it looked like these 2 men, I saw them from behind, and they had hoods up. I'm just looking at 2 men, right? And in my head, it just kind of clicked that it was the 2 witnesses of Revelation. And I'm sitting there and was led to this End Times Dreams and Visions thing, Facebook page. And it was like immediately, this page, super religious, this page had this commotion in a synagogue video up. And I look at it, and I'll pull it up. I only got so far in before I freaked out. I freaked out because they're like, yeah, we think the 2 witnesses of Revelation have came forward, so we're expecting, who else is going to come forward? Who else is coming back? We think it's going to be Moses or Enoch. It should be Enoch and Elijah, but the Jews have been waiting on Elijah for so long. It might be Enoch and Moses. I fucking was so scared. I literally panicked. I was so scared. And this is where it felt like less of a 50-50 blend in me. And it felt like, I mean, this caused the spirit of Elijah so much stress, because this video was like, yeah, this is probably going to go viral, blah, 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 blah. Well, they ain't talking about it. But, as soon as they said that, it was like Elijah was fucking terrified that if this shit went viral and if people started talking about what was going on in Israel, that Israel was probably going to get bombed again. And then we started flipping out on my Facebook, and that's where shit got twisted. That's where I became unemployable. Everybody hated me. Blah, blah, blah.